record this, so you can always reference back. It'll be on my same YouTube channel that everything is. I've made that public, so there shouldn't be any issues getting to it. Though please excuse any inappropriate comments if somebody does leave inappropriate comments, because it is now public, right?
Doesn't matter where
So,
I go.
you need to have a desk that has less than 4 people at it. So you could go there if you wanted. Okay. And so what we're going to have here is this is Canvas, of course. You're going to want to get that up if you haven't already. You'll want to download the syllabus. That's always a good idea because that's your contract with the professor. Before I start in on anything, this is Chemistry 103L for lab, right? You can see that up here. And then 01 is the section number, okay? So this is the first section in the week, right? We're the earliest one for Chemistry 103, okay? Now, notice that that number is slightly different than your number for your lecture, right? And so it's Chemistry 103 with no L for the lecture, right? And then you might be 01, 02, or 03. You could be any of those, right? Now, you'll notice that I, for some of you, am not the same professor as, well, actually, all of you, I'm the professor for. This is actually at the same time as his lecture. So this one and Thursday, I'll just have my people. Okay. Friday, I can have some of his people too. But you do not have to take the same lecture and lab professor. The lectures and labs are independent of each other. They're the same material at the same pacing. We've spent a lot of effort to try to get that to line up. And usually it does, unless there's a whole lot of questions and difficulties with something during the lecture, which sometimes they'll slide. You'll want to join a group of less than 4. Okay. And so the grades for the lectures and labs, they are independent of each other. You can get an A in here. You could get an F in the lecture, which is not unusual because a lot of people like the hands-on, right? It's a very different experience than the lecture. Today's not going to be that different because we have to do a bit of review over... actually, I took all the stuff we're going to be doing the review over from the guidance on what you should learn by a sophomore level high school, in case you're wondering. So that's actually the standardized exams that I took these questions from. None of them are my original questions. They're all from that. Okay. There's a lot of material that you'll see that you'll go, hey, this is something I learned in middle school. Hey, this is something I learned in early high school. It's sort of a basic math and sciences quiz that we're going to do today. Okay. And we're going to do that as groups. And you're going to work together, teach each other, okay? And what we're trying to do is get a sort of baseline for everybody to work off of. Because what I found is that my baseline, I used to have a baseline in students, like I'd get 1 out of every 100 or 1,000 that wouldn't meet that sort of baseline. And it's basic things like 1 times 10 is what? 10, right? How to read a graph. 1/10 is the same as 0.1. And that baseline is absolutely gone. Okay. It is about 40% meets the baseline now that graduates from high school. Okay. It's actually a little better around here and around Tennessee in general. It's actually better than the majority of states. You all probably thought it was worse, didn't you? Yeah, it is not. Tennessee is on the upper end of high school systems in the United States. And actually, Nashville is pretty decent. For a city, it is really good, actually. You guys have no idea unless you've been to one. Like the levels that our public school systems have sunk to. It is wild. Okay, so what we're going to have here is we're going to have this page. It has my information on the front. You'll remember the almost exact same thing from the lecture. In fact, many of the items on here are the same as the lecture. because there's just not a difference. Like there's not PowerPoints for this class because we're lab stuff, right? But I've put that up there because some people don't have me. And when they get to that portion, they're like, I haven't seen this in the lecture yet. We outscale other lectures sometimes. And so that material is there if you want. Okay. Now, this right here is how you can schedule an appointment with me. It has my office hours reflected in there, though my office hours are also listed right there. Okay. You'll notice I actually have a half-hour office hour right before this, right? So I'm actually in there at 7:30. I usually open this door, and then this door because there's no direct office access to my office, and there's a lecture in there starting at 8. So what you'll see here is this door will typically be open every time you come. You can't start the labs at 7:30 because I have to actively be observing you guys and making sure everything's going safe and make sure nothing happens. But yeah, you can come in here, you can start homeworks, that sort of stuff if you want. Okay? And of course, you can see me in my office hour. Say hi to me if you want. All right. So here's the syllabus. You'll want to access that syllabus and get that up. Here's the dynamic schedule that shows you your scheduling, and then we have student-led Q&A and how you study for chemistry, same as the lecture. I'm going to show you the dynamic schedule real quick. You all probably recognize something very similar from the lecture, but this one's for this lab. And so we have it on Tuesday every week. You'll see that when it's stuff that's online and remote, I typically try to indicate that in some way. This one last week was remote online. You didn't have to come in. Okay. Today we're going to be doing the review activity that's here. Measurements, elements. Anytime we do an actual lab where we're like doing actual lab work in the lab, we obviously have to be here. Okay. You can't do it remote. All right. Now, this one right here is going to be limiting reactant making chalk. You'll see that people have forgotten to pick up their chalks over the years. But that's what you'll make. This right here is a quiz, but it's also a modeling activity. You use that quiz to guide you through using those modeling kits, which somebody has stolen and put in the other room, I guess. And so we'll grab those, do some modeling hands-on. It'll be extremely helpful to understand the material in the lecture, which will be like 3D model stuff at the time. Okay? And so it's very nice, actually. This right here, we're going to be experimenting on sugar concentrations. This one here is going to be a very short in-person lab. And then you're going to go off and collect samples. Okay? So I'll show you how to collect samples, then you'll go and collect samples. All right? And submit evidence of collecting samples. This right here, I'm actually giving a talk at Tennessee Tech. And so that is an online review. That's just course review. Okay. What it is it's a little bit of a quiz thing to help you out so you can review for your exams, which are typically coming up. Okay. And sort of encapsulates everything that's happened to you in the course until now. Okay. All right. Now, again, I actually have a talk that I'm giving, so I won't be on campus on Friday. Okay. You'll notice that anytime something happens on Friday, I have to cancel all the labs for the week so we don't have different setups in here because I have to set this up. I actually have to set this up 4 times through the week because I have labs in between every single one of my sections. So, just shoot me now. Oh, wow. So anytime something happens on Friday, we end up canceling this one as well. Okay. So that's why this is no lab because Good Friday, right? And so Friday is canceled by the university, and so you guys are also canceled. I doubt any of you are complaining, though. Usually everybody's like, yeah, sure. Don't make me drive in. So disappointing, Dr. Clausen. Oh, let's get some labs under your belt, and then maybe you'll be disappointed. There are some fun stuff we'll do this year. Now, this right here is going to be pH testing the samples you did in the previous lab where you took samples. And no, the scheduling ended up kind of weird. Sorry. But that's how the breaks happened, right? Can't control Good Friday. And then I had my presentation I have to give, so got to skip 2 weeks. Okay. So this right here, you're going to take those samples. I'm going to make the schedule kind of weird for that. What's going to happen is I'll teach you how to sample. You'll want to try it out so you don't forget. And then you're going to want to take most of your samples closer to the deadline where we're going to actually pH test. Okay. And the assignments will end up corresponding to that, though I may not have actually gotten the assignment dates correct right now. Okay. It's been an eventful 2 weeks for all your professors. Did you guys hear about all the professors were kicked out of their courses? Yeah. Yeah, we were all kicked out of our Canvas courses for most of a day last week. So wonderful. All right. So this is the week before finals, and what I have there is if you have an excused absence throughout the semester, what I'll do is I'll have 2 makeup quizzes you can take, and those makeup quizzes will then make up the points for your absence. Okay. Otherwise, because it's the lab and you can't just do homework to make it up, right? I would have to actually have you come in and try to do the lab. This lab is always full. There is not a time during the day this lab is not full. And so that becomes impossible. Okay. So instead, I have replacement activities you can do whenever you miss. You'll have to make these up at the end of the week before finals. Okay. Okay. And then once you make those up, and you will have to submit your excusal for that lab in place of your lab notebook, okay, or your assignment. What will happen is then you will be excused. There's a little drop down I can do, and I put like assignment excused. Okay. And then your grade will end up being replaced by that one. If you just do this and you don't submit an excusal, it'll just be added on as an extra lab. Okay. Which I guess could help you. Most likely is not going to help you because, yeah, the in-person ones typically are a little easy. And I tell you all the answers or guide you through on how to get all the answers. So as long as you actively participate, it's very rare for anybody to get less than a like mid or high B. Okay, that'd be the lowest I've seen somebody that actively participates. If you kind of just leave a bunch of stuff blank and don't do stuff, then you can get bad grades, even being here. Because obviously you have to actively participate. All right. There is no lab or anything. We are done the week before finals. Okay? So finals, concentrate on taking final exams. Okay. Okay. Everybody good with that schedule? Any questions, concerns, comments? Nope. Scheduled performances to be done right before lab? No? No? Nobody wants to a cappella in the... Oh. Okay. That's a shame. All right. This right here is going to be my office hours again. You'll see course description. This is learning outcomes. This is actually the stuff you need if you ever transfer or decide to start off at another school after like the associates or whatever. Okay. So this is one of the reasons I always tell you to download the syllabus is because if you ever need it, you need this material on the syllabus. Okay. And if you don't have it, it can be very difficult to get that material, right? Like you can't guarantee you're going to be able to contact me in 5 years, right? Okay. Don't know what will happen to me in 5 years. Probably here, but don't know what will happen to me in 5 years. All right. So this right here is your grade breakdown. This is the part that people usually care the most about on this syllabus, unfortunately. This is the lab safety. Did everybody complete the lab safety modules last week? That's worth 10%. Congratulations. You could get dinged if you just refuse to follow safety guidelines in lab, but congratulations. You've made 10% of your grade. It was pretty easy, right? Yeah. Not exactly the most challenging of material there. But it was what I needed you guys to know to come in here and be safe and not harm yourselves, right? Most of the labs have been made as safe as I can because there's been incidents with people not handling things safe. It is such a different world than what I grew up in. First day of lab for me was, okay, everybody, make sure you dry that glass real well. Don't take the cap off because this lights on fire and explodes when in contact with moisture and air. Okay. That would be totally not okay. I get myself fired doing that now. Okay. Very different world. They used to give kids mercury as toys. Yeah. Okay, so check in and outs. These are going to be quizzes. They're located on the website here if you go under assignments or modules. I prefer going under modules. What you'll see is that every lab is going to end up having a check-in, the lab, and then a checkout. Okay? This is one of the reasons I said everybody should go ahead and make sure Canvas is on your phone. What they are is they're quizzes. You should do them right as you get into lab. Okay? Not before another location. Okay? If I see any of these that are done at a time period when we don't actually have lab, I'll just reject them. Okay? I'll go through every now and then. It won't be every time we have labs because it's going to take me a bit. And there's an efficiency to scale for that. For me, just like all your check-ins for 3 weeks. Okay. But what I'll end up doing is if it's outside the range of the lab times, if it's not like 7:50 to 8 something, okay, on Tuesdays, I'll end up just rejecting those and giving those zeros. Okay. Now, what will happen is you'll see that this quiz here takes you through the proper procedure to start up lab. That's all it is, okay? And so you just go through. It has some directions right there. This is the glassware equipment. So this has pictures of all the sort of glassware and equipment that you should have at your desk locations. You would put your desk number, see the numbers that are in little white tags. A few of those have come off, but you can just look at your partners and go, oh, my desk number is this. Okay? And then, so you type that in there. You will notice that this will reject anything that has less than 1 and more than 2 characters because we do not have hundreds of desks and we do not have a 0 desk. Okay? It's 1 through 24, so that's the only answers you can put in. This right here is a check sheet, and so you go through and do a check sheet. Let's talk about appropriate attire real quick. So this right here would be appropriate attire. Notice my shoes right here are fully encapsulating my feet. They are not loose mesh, so that if I drop any liquids on them, they will not immediately penetrate through. Okay? That's the important part of this. If you drop a liquid that's harmful onto your shoe, you want to be able to get these off and then wash them off, not have your foot in there and wash it off and get the stuff all on your feet so it harms your feet. Okay? You want to harm your shoe, not your foot. Okay? Now, we don't really work with that dangerous stuff, but we're still going to maintain proper lab safety because every now and then we will work with something that's honestly not more dangerous than the stuff you can get at Lowe's or Walmart, but we operate under a different rule set than Lowe's and Walmart. And God, don't even talk about federal. Actually, the level of danger they're allowed to submit you to is just amazing. Okay. They are allowed to radiologically dose you. without informing you. And have done that on many occasions. Actually, a concerning number of occasions, if you actually look it up. Have I been dosed? Maybe. So that's appropriate attire. You cannot show and bury your midriff. This is not usually a concern during winter, but when it starts getting warmer, it'll be more of a concern. Okay. When you're wearing coats, this is one of the big things that we're going to see right now, is that you need to either keep it zipped if you're cold. It does get pretty cold in here. If it's windy, you'll see that that fan right there has vents that open to the outside, and they can blow open. Okay. So when it's like cold and windy, it can get pretty cold. You may want to bring a jacket that's reasonably warm. Okay. As if you were outside jacket. So don't come in here in a t-shirt because you only had to go from your car to here. Unless you're used to the weather, you're like a Canadian or a Dakotan or something. Whatever. You can deal with it. Okay. So, that's appropriate attire, fine, but you have to keep that zipped up and it has to be able to roll up the sleeves. Okay? And they need to not be these long draping sleeves you see. You bring that in, you need to wrap them up and tie them in some way so that they don't drag through things. Your hair, you're going to want to bring up something to pull it back. Okay? Anybody that has long hair. There's a phenomenon that happens a lot to especially the ladies, but sometimes the guys as well, where they have longer hair. They'll lean over a lab setup, and then their hair drops into it, right? You don't really want your hair covered in whatever is in the lab, right? It's not a great thing. For the jackets, the reason we need to have those zipped up if you're going to have a jacket on is because they'll blow open, right? And then the side tails will hit things and knock them over, okay? So when you're walking around, they typically bat wing and don't step over, right? For your shorts and whatever you're wearing for your bottoms there, they need to come down to the knee area, okay? This part of your body right here needs clothing protecting it in the lap. Because if you're going to have a spill, that's the place that's going to get hit, right? You want to have something that's going to be temporarily in the way that blocks it from your body, that you can then throw off. If you do get a spill and it's bad spill, you'll want to come over here. You'll close the curtain, turn on the shower, strip your clothes, throw them out, or throw them on the ground in there. There's blankets, and I have extra pairs of like clothing in there. They're going to be big and baggy on most of you, but that's fine, right? You don't need to be fashionable while you try to get some new clothes. Okay? Okay, so that pretty much covers appropriate attire. You will notice there's little nooks and crannies in front of you. Let's go ahead and do this all together, and you'll go on this side, or one of you will go on, or two of you will go on this side, where you'll take your bag, put it in the bottom nook, and if you have a jacket or something, purses, that sort of stuff, water bottles, you'll put it in the top. Okay? And that's going to keep those from tripping people and causing them to get messed up, right? It'll also keep them from being tripped and throwing liquid on you. Okay? All right. Everybody got that okay? That water bottle needs to go up on the top nook. Food and water. If you brought a water bottle and it can close, you can put it on the top nook. That's fine. Just put it far back so it doesn't get used for anything and nobody pours anything in. Okay? If you bring food, it can go in your bag, but I would really recommend not bringing any open food or drink inside of this lab. Okay? If you're going to bring it, leave it out in the hallway right behind this door here. Okay? And that will keep it from getting mixed up with anything in the lab. Quite a bit of the stuff we use in the lab will be mildly poisonous, and there's very toxic stuff used in some of the labs in here. Okay? So if you put your food down in the wrong place in this, and the wrong place could not look like the wrong place. The wrong place could look completely clean to you. Okay? You could get something very toxic and be in the hospital. All right? So like heavy metal poisoning where it's weeks in the hospital and you may never actually fully recover from it. Okay? So that is very unusual. the chances of something like that happening is extremely low. But it is still something that we're not going to take the risk. Why bother bringing in food? Do you need food during the lab, right? No. You can go 2 hours without some food, or you can go in the hallway to have little snacks if you have a glycemic problem. Okay. So my shoes are going to be, well, slow liquids that come through. You need shoes that have backs. For example, your shoes are not okay, right? Your shoes are also not okay because they don't have a back. Yours would probably be okay. But I would prefer if you wear some like sneakers or something or whatever, right? Okay. Got a good idea there? So, I have read the procedure. I have the procedure. I have read it and done the physical properties and safety hazards for my lab notebook, which we'll talk about the lab notebooks in just a bit. Basically, did you bring the stuff you need to do the lab here? Okay. There are lab packets that are up online. On each of the assignments, you'll see that every time we have a lab, there's an assignment that pops up as being due right as the lab starts. Okay. That's the lab packet assignment. It's not meant for you to actually turn something into it. What it's meant for is you to go on there, open the lab packet, go ahead and print the lab packet. You will not want to download it on a digital device because you won't want a digital device on your desk. Okay? Because it's very likely you're going to spill stuff and get water all over this, and that's not a great thing for a digital device, is it? Okay. And so then you'll have your lab packet. It'll typically have like a worksheet portion, which you'll record data and you'll go ahead and do some calculations, answer some questions, that sort of thing. And then you're going to turn those in at the end of every lab. Okay. And then I'll grade those. It usually takes me a little while to grade because I have like 75 of those, or a little under 75 of those every week. Okay. So it takes a bit. But that's for my grade. Now, if you miss that lab for an excused reason, what you're going to do is you'll take that excusal, whatever the excuse is, and you'll submit it as a digital file. So if it's a doctor note, you're going to CAM scan it in. We'll talk about CAM scan in just a bit when we talk about lab notebooks, which will create a PDF, and then you'll submit that to that assignment instead. Okay? And then that flags it up for me that you submitted something. So when I go to do grading, I'm like, oh, they have an excused absence. I'll leave that blank for now. Later on, I'll excuse it once you do the makeup quiz. Okay? Okay. And so then we'll have physical records of everything, right? Also, you'll submit that same excusal if we have a lab notebook to the lab notebook assignment. Okay? And so whenever you do the lab notebooks, you normally submit them as PDFs. If you have an excusal, you'll submit the excusal instead. Okay. So you need to read the procedures before you come in because they have safety information. They also have what you're going to do. Has anybody ever heard of cookbooking yet? Okay. Everybody's either cooked new recipes, which they've never cooked before, and just tried to read the recipe and do it while they're reading the recipe. Or they've tried to assemble IKEA and not read through the directions first, right? One of the two. Okay. What always happens when you do that? You screw up, don't you? You screw up massively. And then you're like, shit, now I gotta redo this part, or I burned it, or I put too much sugar, salt, whatever. You always mess up every time. That's because when you're doing something while reading it for the first time, you have too many things going on at once, right? And it just gets away from you. So the labs are the same way. You need to read those labs before you come in. Okay, it's going to take you 5 to 10 minutes, but what you're going to notice is labs are actually designed for an hour and a half to an hour and 15 minutes. Okay? Because I have a, do you guys know what the Pareto effect is? No? Okay, so you've probably noticed that, like, if you have a population of like 100 people in a job, like 10 of those people are producing the majority of the work in it, right? So if you look at like musicians, out of the musicians, very few people are actually producing the majority of the music, right? And so that's called the Pareto effect. And it happens in anything humans do. We'll have two tail ends, and you'll have like super fast people on something, super slow people, right? And then we'll have sort of a grouping in the middle that's kind of our average mean values, right? And so that happens on the labs too. So I'm going to have super fast people, and they'll get these labs done in like 45 minutes. Okay. And I'll have super slow people, and even in 2 hours, they're still not done. Okay. And these labs are designed for like hour 15 minutes is the typical lab design. Okay. And so what's going to happen here is that the people that read the lab and look stuff up and get themselves kind of ready, takes about 15 minutes typically because they're not long. They're going to get out typically 30 to 45 minutes early. Okay. The people that don't read the lab, show up, have no idea what is happening. They may hit the end of the lab and still not be done because they're sitting there. What are we supposed to do? I don't understand this. What? Messing around, right? They don't know what they're doing, and so they can't finish the lab. Okay. So it is very advisable to read that lab. If you can meet with your lab partners beforehand, it'll be even better. Like the person next to you, that's your lab partner, by the way. Say hi to them and go, hey, buddy. Exchange information. We'll end up, you'll probably end up with a lab partner. But when we do things with lab partners, I'll group you in with them. Okay. And so there you go. That is your lab partner. Congratulations. Hopefully you guys work great together. If you don't, I will swap your seat. Okay. Okay. Now I will literally go, hey, you go over there, you go over here. And I've had to do it a few times. Usually because the lab partner kind of sits back and tries not doing anything, and then I kick them out of the group, and yeah. No. So make sure you read that lab procedure. There is safety information in it as well. I have the glassware equipment on the list in the drawer. If I'm missing anything, I've obtained that item and refilled my drawer. So go ahead on first top drawers in front of you. You'll notice you're sharing it with your lab partner. You should open that up. Okay. Be careful when you open and close these. They do not have that rubber break that you would normally have in drawers that would like slow it and keep it from going bam. Okay. And it is full of glassware. You can very easily break things if you slam these. Okay. So try to be very careful when you open and close these. So you'll see that, hey, that looks suspiciously like the stuff I have up here, right? Because that is the list of equipment you should have. So that drawer has all of the glassware portions. Okay. And so every lab, you should go through that and look, and am I missing anything? Okay. If you're missing anything, what you're going to do is, hey, Dr. Clausen, you're going to come up. Hey, Dr. Clausen, I'm missing something. I'm going to give you this key. This key right here, which is the small brass one. Okay, everybody see that? Opens the cabinets out there. You'll open one of those up, grab whatever you needed, come back here with that and put it in. Okay? If you have extra stuff, you need to, again, take that extra stuff, make sure it's clean, put it in the sink over here, okay? And that will get put back eventually, okay? Actually, I'm going to have you just put it back in the cabinets so that I don't kill my work study with a bunch of glassware, because this happens a lot. You're going to be surprised about how you multiply your glassware. I've had people, I've had 12 copies of one item at the end of this semester because there's other sections in here. They're going to gather up 12 copies of Erlenmeyer flasks, right? And put it in your drawer, and you're going to be like, why? Okay. You're really going to go, what in the heck is going on here by the end of the semester? That place is crazy sometimes. Okay. So make sure they're clean. Make sure it's refilled. That way you're ready to go. Do you know what the difference between a professional and a layman is, how you can tell the difference every time you watch them do their jobs within minutes of them starting. So a professional comes to their job and they have things sorted out in such a way that's organized to them, at least, and so that they can optimize their workflow, right? And they're going to maintain their environment to some degree. Okay? A layperson does not control their environment and their tools. And so they're incredibly inefficient and they're always having to go back and forth their vehicles and get new stuff. And what you'll see is that the professional, because they've optimized their environment, they take half the time, right? The layman, because they don't optimize their environment, they don't have everything ready, they're going to be making 10, 20 trips to their vehicle. They're going to take 2-3 times the time, right? Yeah. And they're going to do a bad job. All right. So I'm going to then get my lab notebook and pen out so they're ready for taking notes and observations. Tablets and pencils are not going to be appropriate. You need a pen and a lab notebook. We'll talk again about the lab notebook in just a bit, but need to get that out, need to have that ready. I had a comment on one of my reviews for the evaluations for this course where a student said, not this course specifically, but a similar course that I've taught for another university. Dr. Clausen tells me everything I need to know at being in a lab. I just can't remember it. Where this was like a negative about this. There's a thing. It's called taking notes, and that's how you remember things. There you go. Put an item in there. If you ever wonder why I'll give advice and it's like the most, and you're like, Dr. Clausen, why did you give me that advice? Like I would need to know that. It is because I've had multiple people not know that. Okay. Do not bang glass stuff like that against the desk. I will actually say that throughout the semester because I've had 5 people do it and I don't know what to think anymore. So again, make sure that glassware is clean. You're gonna have if you have anything in your desk that is not clean, that is a mess, that is a problem from a previous section, you are going to take that, set it aside. There's a part of this where you'll take a picture and submit it. Okay. You can actually just do it through your phone where you go in this, hit this and say camera and then click and then it automatically submits that. Okay. You'll see it at the end of the assignment. So you'll make sure that everything's clean by the end, but you will take that and anything that the previous section messed up, you're going to take a picture of. Okay. They left a mess, if they left a problem, if they did something wrong, you're going to take a picture so I know and can pursue the issue. Okay. Also, I teach with other professors in this environment, and they're all a different gender. Let's leave it at that. And they all blame me all the time for every mess in all labs. Okay. Even if I have not taught in that lab for 2 weeks. I'm still the one that gets blamed. So, what's going to happen is I have implemented this. Every desk has pictures of it now. There is no way, both before and after. And so, they blame me. I bring up the pictures and I go, no, it was not my people. It was the people before this one. Okay? Because I got sick and tired of it. Okay? Just wild. I had the person that made the mess, their lab made the mess, blame me for the mess. When I hadn't done that sort of lab at all in that room ever. Okay? I'm done with it. You all are gonna catch them making messes so I can hold it over their heads. And you all are gonna make sure that everything's clean every time. Okay, so your procedures will mention glassware. You'll want to get those out so you're ready to go. That way, when I start giving you the pre-lab lecture and I'm like, hey, we need a beaker, do this. Last semester, we had this lab and I was taking people through, oftentimes do this in the 103 lab, where I will literally just take you through a section of the procedure. Okay. And it was literally get a beaker out, clean the beaker, dry it, place it on the balance. That was the entire instruction set. Okay. And it took 35 minutes. I don't know what to say. So I have get the dang glassware out at the beginning. So when we're trying to go through this procedure and directions, you're not sitting there fumbling with which one's the beaker, where's the beaker, is it clean? You'll already have all that done, right? And so it will not take 35 minutes, hopefully. uh, so the balances, does everybody see the balances? They're at the end of the desks. They're plugged into the wall outlet. Okay. So those are the balances. They're going to be what you weigh things with. You will need to make sure they're clean. That little metal plate on the top does come out if it's sticky and covered in stuff. You just take it out, you put it over the sink, soap, water, something to scrub with, scrub it, dry it off. Okay? That's how you clean that. If the balance itself is a mess, you'll get some Clorox clean wipes, which over here, and you'll clean off that balance, okay? Because you can't do soap and water in balance tops. No putting that in running water. Anybody's wondering. Okay. Now, keep in mind that if you do disappear for long periods of time during a lab, I will mark you as being as taking off. Okay. And you do have to submit that. Also, if you show up significantly late to this lab, you will miss the safety and information that you need to do the lab. And so I will not let you start the lab if you show up significantly late, unless we already had some sort of like understanding. Okay. Especially if we had an understanding that involved your group. Okay. 10 minutes or something to use the restroom, totally fine. If you just disappear for like 30, 45 minutes, yeah, it's going to be an issue because it's only a 2-hour lab, right? It's a quarter of the time. You didn't do the lab then. Okay. One of the things I need to mention apparently is you will want to stay on task in this lab. Again, they're designed for an hour, 15 minutes. If you spend 30 minutes doing nothing, you're going to be bumping up against the 2 hours. By the 2 hours, we need to be completely done and ready to remove ourselves from this lab. Okay? Because this lab gets used pretty often and consistently. I don't know exactly if we have somebody right after us in this lab. Usually I do, though. Okay? Now, one of the things that happens a lot is I have literally seen people like look out the window and start talking about, hey, they're fighting out there. Is that Da-di-da? And is he breaking up with her finally? And sit there yabbering about the people outside for 45 minutes. Okay? And then complain about the fact that they can't get the lab done in 2 hours. Okay? Then the lab's full. You show up not having read the lab and do everything but the lab. That's not the lab's fault. Okay? So please don't stream inappropriate stuff on your laptops or something while you're trying to do lab. Okay? Apparently that also is a thing I need to say. I'm not going to mention why that is a thing, but it is definitely. And not just men. Which, yeah. The fact that I had to say it at all is just crazy, right? All right. Now, we oftentimes will use hot plates. The hot plates are typically going to be if you look in the cabinet. So if you open the cabinet to the side, so it's a drawer in the cabinet, right? So the cabinet has a few things in it. Not that cabinet, the one between you two. The ones along the walls are storage for the lab. Okay. And that you're good. You're right. That was definitely a cabinet at your desk. So what you'll notice in there, that has all your metal stuff and a little tub there, right? and it has a stand. Okay, that's a ring stand, and then it has a hot plate. Okay, and so you'll need to make sure the hot plate is clean before and after you use it. If it's hot, you can wipe it down with a water on a rag. Okay, it will be fine. You just make sure you soak it with cold water before you use it, and then soak it after you use it, so it stays cool. Right, soak it every now and then, and it actually will clean really well when it's still hot. You'll put that away hot. I can show you how. If you don't understand, you just wind it in front, and then hold it in the front where it's not hot, and slide it away. Okay. Anyways, you're gonna put that up. You'll get it clean, and you'll make sure it's ready to go. Okay. Now, you do not have lab kits. I actually need to change that. That's from my organic, but you do not need lab kits. Okay. You also don't need that. Excuse me. I do need to modify these last two things. Okay. You do need to obtain and wear goggles. There is extra goggles right here, but I would recommend you go ahead and buy a pair because these are worn by whoever, right? I do have spray to clean them off. I'll have to. That's in here. Okay. Right there. That's isopropyl spray. You spray them and it'll kill everything on them, hopefully. However, viruses can sometimes survive through that, and you don't know if they actually cleaned it properly. And I don't have time to go through and clean these every time between labs. Okay, so it's better if you have your own pair. They're about $5 a piece. Okay, but if you need to borrow them, that's there. You will have to wear those whenever we're working with any chemicals. Okay, now. What happens if I just say, I'm not going to bother doing this? So I take my goggles off, I'm going to get warned, okay? If I warn you 3 times, I'm going to say, next time I see you, I'm throwing you out of the lab, okay? Okay. That's if we're working with chemicals, though. Now, if I violate the safety procedures, I show up and I don't have proper clothing, you can be kicked out of the lab. Not be allowed to do the lab. Okay? And so I would recommend if you're a commuter, this is what I used to do when I was in school, keep a bag with some extra clothing. That's just a good idea if you're a commuter, period, because you never know what's going to happen to you, right? And so keep a bag, put some of those, there's those collapsible shoes that are rigid on the sides. You can get a pair of those, keep them in the bag. They're like $5, $10 at Walmart, Target, that sort of thing. And then you can keep an extra pair of clothing that would be lab appropriate. Okay? And that way you have some extra stuff in case something goes wrong. Okay? Or I forget something. Now, this right here, you're going to click that, and that's where you'll take the picture. We're going to do that today. So get this assignment open, go through the checklist, make sure all your glassware is there, take a picture of your desk. You will notice there is a portion in here that is sweeping the floor. Oop, I need to fix that. Oh, that's at the checkout. Now, the checkout has the same thing. You do that at the end of lab whenever you're done. You're going to do the checkout. That one has things like sweep the floor. You're going to put away all the glassware, make sure they're clean the balance, clean the hot plate, etc. Put everything away. Okay? Everybody good? Everybody understand that? Okay. Okay. So we will do the 0-1 check-in, check-out. You'll do the check-in at the beginning, check-out before you leave. Okay? Okay. Now, do we have stools out here? All right. Now, if everybody wants to kind of come out to the hallway real quick, there are stools out there. There is not enough for everybody because some of them are broken and we have not gotten an official stool that we were supposed to be able to use in here. However, if you get a stool, you need to put it back nicely like they're currently stacked. Okay? If you do not, you will actually be penalized, and you'll be penalized as a lab. Okay? I'll penalize the entire lab if everybody leaves stuff. Okay, so come on out to the hallway. Right here. And then you can push that survey, see how it's stacked. Okay. Can't have it here and left. If you go ahead, you have to put it back. And you need to go back here where it is right now. Not put it on the front of the car. Oh, I know, right? No, that's actually, by the way, you know. But if anybody's wondering, you can't pull that up in the door. There's only 3 left. Yeah, sorry.
Scared.
Mhm. So we're doing the check-in right now. So you need to open the check-in on something you can take a picture of your desk, like your phone or something. So everybody should have opened the check-in on like their phone and done the check-in procedure. I will stay standing with the people that are standing in solidarity throughout the entire lab. But we have not been able to actually place something that's been acceptable for the lab because we don't have a place to store them. We need some stackable stools, but it's been a whole thing getting those. So, again, we have the modules here. What you'll notice is, again, we have the math and science review. That's what we're going to be doing after we're done with the syllabus information. That's going to be a review that you do with the rest of your desk, and you can help each other out. This is the checkout. Whenever you're done, you're going to, again, just follow that procedure for checking out. You will notice it has a portion where you'll sweep, okay? If we sweep and we need a dustpan, there's a broom with a dustpan in there, okay? And I'll be ordering a broom with a dustpan for here as well. Okay. And every single lab will have something like that, right? So again, if I miss the lab, if it's a quiz, the quizzes are all designed to be able to be done outside of the lab, but meant to be done in the lab. Okay? So if you miss that day, you can do the quiz outside of the lab and still get points. It will be more difficult and it'll take you more time. Okay? Now, these assignments right here, you're not meant to actually submit anything to these assignments when it's like that. What you're meant to do is you come in, you do the packet here, you turn in the packet. If anybody scans the packet in without permission, I'm not going to grade it. Okay? You'll still end up with a 0. Okay? Because this is also how I take attendance. That you were here, you did a packet, you turned it in. Okay? Now, what will end up happening is you are going to do a check-in. I haven't made the next one because I wanted to go through and double check. Like, so there's 2 errors. Some proofreading I'm doing right here. And you're going to do the check-in. You'll do the packet. You'll turn it in. That's where the grade for that one comes from. You'll do the checkout. You get a grade for that. And then you'll have what's called lab book. Okay, LB. These right here are what you're going to do is you're going to have a lab notebook. This is where you're going to take any observations, notes, and you'll take any of your actual measurements in lab that you are not immediately going to need in the packet. Okay, so this is where you write down all the weights and sizes, and this solution smelled like this and that was blue. Okay, that's where you'll write all that stuff down. It's a lab notebook. I do not expect you guys to have something to this level. Okay, this is an organic chemistry lab notebook. That's a 300 level course. Okay, and so it is very well done. If you want to make something on that level, you can use a composition notebook. That's fine. you could also use the lab notebooks that we sell in the bookstore. Okay, they're a little nicer, but the composition notebooks are like $1 a piece, so they're very cheap. Okay, and so it looks something like that if you want to do a very nice job. Okay, this again is a 300 level lab notebook, though. I do not expect that out of this course. What I expect is for you to use a pen, you to use a lab notebook that does not have detachable pages. It is not a binder or anything like that. Okay, it has something that the pages would have to be ripped out, and it'd be very obvious you ripped them out. Okay, the important keyword is not easily changed. Okay, and so you'd use a pen again. If you use a pen and you make a mistake, you should make mistakes. That is fine. You will do a single line cross through like that, and that's how you get rid of your error. Okay, it needs to still be readable because sometimes errors are important, and you don't know that. Okay. All right. So that's what a lab notebook looks like. And so what you're going to do is you're going to make a lab notebook. It does, again, not need to look as good as that and have that much information. Typically, lab notebooks in here are like 1 or 2 pages. Okay. And you're going to then take that lab notebook. You'll get Cam Scanner. I hard require Cam Scanner. You have to use Cam Scanner. I am tired of people using that stupid freaking app in Apple that does the scans and does a miserable job of it. Okay? It is crap. And everybody keeps telling me it is just as good or better than Cam Scanner. No, it is not. It does not do a good job. Okay? Neither does the Android one, so I don't care what type of phone you have. Get Cam Scanner. There is a paid one that does as well of a job. This is the only one that's free and does a good job. Okay? And so you get Cam Scanner on a phone, tablet, whatever. You're going to then take that, scan it in. And once you get used to this, it's very, very easy. You'll scan 1 page of your lab notebook at a time. You'll make them into paged PDF. Okay? And then you're going to submit that to Canvas under the LB assignment for that experiment. Okay? And if you have the apps for Canvas and Cam Scanner on your phone, you can actually submit it directly from Cam Scanner into Canvas. Okay, it's super convenient. It takes like 2 minutes, right? Once you get used to it, you can do it in about 1.5 minutes. Okay? If you don't know what you're doing, it might take 3 minutes. So, huge imposition. But I require it to be Cam Scanner. I'm not going to argue about it. I'm sorry. Okay? So you can kind of tell I am fed up with the argument of people telling me this is just as good when they don't have to go through and grade 70 of those. Okay? It is not as good if it's a light blue color and I can't read it. Okay? And so, no, it is not as good. All right. This was done with Cam Scanner, in case you're wondering. See how it looks like a scan? Nice and dark. No blur. Easy to read. Nice and flat. Not curved like this. Yeah. No glares. Okay. Okay. I know. I'm sorry, but you have no idea how difficult it is when you have to read like 20 of them and they're a light blue color and can't see them. I will start giving zeros on those, by the way. Because my eyes are worth more to me than your grade. Sorry. Okay. Now, the attendance. You get 10% for being here. Okay? You need to be here, but you also need to be an active participant lab, right? If you are not an active participant lab, I will pull you aside. And every semester I've had to do this for the last 5 years now. Before this, that never was an issue, but for some reason it is an issue now. And I've had to go, hey, you can't just sit there and watch your lab partner do stuff and then occasionally not know what the hell you're doing, screw up what they're doing. And I've had people literally drive the person that's working to tears because they just barge in, pour out the stuff because they have no idea what they're doing. And they like, for some reason, thought they should be active, then fine. All right. I will pull people aside and give you a warning. And if you don't follow the warnings, I will actually remove you and you'll go and not be in lab. Okay. And I'll kick you out of that lab. Usually, I have not yet had a situation. I've done that like 4 or 5 times now. I'm through my entire career, kick people out of the labs. I've not yet had a situation where the person showed up the next day and weren't like, sorry, that was stupid, and started working. Okay. The worst situation I had 2 guys, 1 lady that were in a group, and the 2 guys just for some reason thought they could not be prepared, not know what the hell they were doing. And that was actually that example I gave. And oh man, I totally get it why she was just driven to tears. It was bad. Second time that they showed up and did that, I pulled them aside and I chewed them out for 5 minutes and then switched her and that group, left them together. Did not give them a new partner. And they actually fixed it. By the end of the semester, they were doing really good. Yeah. So I gotta give them credit. They were leaning on her horribly, but once I made them do their own thing, they finally got together. Okay, so lab worksheets. Again, you need to be an active participant in lab. If you're not an active participant in the lab, I will literally kick you out before you can land in a lab sheet. And so you won't get this points, okay? 60% of your grade. It's the majority of your grade, right? This is the big thing. These are, you should not be able to fail this course. If you show up and actively participate, it is very, very, very difficult to fail this course, this lab, okay? Because I take you through everything you need for this lab to get a perfect grade. Like, I just give you everything. So the ability to fail this course is almost non-existent as long as you're an active participant in the lab. Okay? If you don't actively participate in the lab, you can, of course, fail the course very easily. Majority of people that fail the course are people that just don't show up. Okay? And then, by the way, if you email me 4 weeks to the end of the course, the semester, and go, hey, Dr. Clausen, what days can I make up this list of 5 labs? What do you think my answer is going to be? Is this high school, middle school? No. And so my answer will be no. Okay? There are no days you can make up all those labs. You're screwed. Okay? So if you don't show up for months on end and then go, hey, I'm failing this and it's almost the end of the semester, you're failing it, okay? You should withdraw if you don't show up for 4 or 5 weeks. Right? In fact, do you guys even know anything about the new policies that have been put in place? So there's new policies that were just put in place last year, actually. And so they were put in place where if you do not actively participate in a course for 2 weeks, the professor is supposed to submit that, and you're supposed to get what's called an FA, failure to attend. Okay? If you get a failure to attend, from the date that you stop showing up on, you have to pay any grants or loans back. Okay? And so you don't just get the course like, oh, it's the normal grant, no problem. No, you got to pay that damn grant back now. Okay? So do not just start, like, not show up, okay? That is something you definitely do not want to do. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? Okay, fantastic. Again, you gotta attend this course. This is just not a course you can do off on your own for most days. Please make sure you've read these materials that are provided to you from Cumberland. They're really helpful and useful, actually. And Cumberland actually really does care about you and has a lot of materials. A lot of people are very passionate. Okay? All right. Again, that's that same schedule that's in the dynamic schedule. just on my syllabus because I'm required to. I think the dynamic schedule is better. No, this is the important dates throughout the semester, and that's your final schedule. There is not a final for this class, but if you have another class that you don't know the final date, there you go, okay? Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions whatsoever? Okay, fantastic. So what I want you to do is group up into 4. You can join one of the groups, okay? And make sure you get your check-in before you start. So get your check-in done, submit that photo, submit that quiz. Group up, and then you're going to want to open the Math and Science Review. And yours looks different, obviously, when you open it. And then you'll want to start on that. You can talk to each other, help each other. Don't just give people answers, though. Like, we're doing this because it's a baseline of knowledge that you really need to have. Okay, if you don't have that baseline of knowledge, you're really going to suffer on these next labs. Okay, and in the course in general, like the 103 lecture, you're also really going to suffer. Right? I put this in to sort of try to get a baseline there to help people. Okay, good luck. And if you have a question that their entire table gets stuck on, let me know, and I'll help you out.
I actually did it last night because I thought it was
Oh.
due before class. Because I saw it was due at 8 a.m. and then I clicked on it and it said do it with the table, but I had already started it, so I just finished it. So
That's fine.
I'm sorry I didn't know.
That's okay. Help others.
Okay.
And you can take it again if you're not happy with your grade. Okay? By the way, this quiz is meant to be taken once in here. You don't have to finish it. All Canvas quizzes will save progress, and you can always reopen them. And this can be actually retaken for a better grade. Okay? So if you do poorly the first time, you can come back and like tonight, tomorrow night, something like that, retake it and get points. It does not actually have a late penalty. Okay? So you can retake it at any point throughout the semester if you want to get a better grade. Please do not forget to get your lab partner's number or contact information, some way that you can reliably contact them. I would not actually recommend just getting the social media information, because what I find happens is that people get social media information, try to contact, and then does not work. Okay, make sure you get that check-in. If you don't do the check-in now in lab and the check-out in lab, you can't do them outside. So if you try doing them at other times, it's not going to work. When we do the first actual experiment where we physically do stuff and do the lab notebook next week, I would recommend trying to do the lab notebook when you're trying to leave, and then with the cam scan. And then if you have trouble with it, talk to me and I can show you guys how to do it. Okay? Once you know, it is ridiculously easy. But it does take a little bit of a learning curve.